Golf obsessions go back a ways. The first record we have is King James II's decree that told Scottish subjects to desist from playing golf. It seems the old bird was afraid citizens were jeopardizing the national defense by sloughing off on archery practice to golf. Golfing then, in 1457, was malingering and a punishable offense. 1457? That's more than 500 years ago, and almost 50 years before Columbus fell over the flat end of the world to discover ours. The obsessive and passionate nature of golfers hasn't changed much since then, although the overzealous today tend to wind up in the doghouse, not the jailhouse. Hello, my name is Lou Palmer, amidst the natural surroundings of the 18th of the classics at the Lely Resort in Naples, Florida. And it's fitting because I'm here to help you know about a golfing method that will impact your game, the game, and the way golf is played forever. It's natural golf, a method its creator says is agreeable with all the laws of nature and the formal sciences, and is absolutely the best way to hit a ball on the ground with a stick. I'll introduce you to the man and the natural golfing method that he's created, that historians will attest exposed as faulty the very foundation of the modern golf swing, the sacrosanct traditional finger grip. Pretty heady stuff. More on that from the man, but permit me first to credentialize my enthusiasm. What we're talking about here is sports revolution, and I'm not unfamiliar with them. In cable TV's infancy, I had the unique and distinct experience of being ESPN's founding director of programming, and I might add its very first voice and face. Those exciting times remind me of these. Being around discovery and pioneers is both exciting and exhilarating. See the fella in the hat here? He's Jack Kirkendall, Professor K to his students, constituents, and devotees. His sidekick is Mo Norman, the best-kept secret legend in golf, but not much longer. The likes of Trevino, Snead, Venturi, and Hogan accord him legendary status as one of, if not the best ball striker in the history of golf. The relationship between Jack and Norman is historic. These bishops of the game are a pair of respective geniuses who independently developed the same golf swing, the natural golf swing you will come to know and should adapt to your golf game. The golf swing mechanics which Mo Norman has instinctively played since he was 14 are the same independently discovered by Jack Kirkendall when he correctly applied the laws of nature and formal sciences of physics, anatomy, neuroscience, and kinesiology to the golf swing. These revolutionary natural mechanics give every golfer the highest probability of hitting strong, accurate golf shots consistently. The men and their meeting and subsequent collaborations is pure Hollywood, and a story we'll only have time to share tidbits of in this work.
I went through it, don't tell me. I slept in park benches, I slept in bunkers. Hitchhiked a tournament, shot 61, went home. Don't tell me, I went through it.
You need to know Professor K as a physicist with a scientist's rage to know, and an obsessed golfer, giddy with his invention. You need to know Mo Norman as a phenomenon, unique, independent, proud, and excruciatingly withdrawn, probably a result of early life traumas and character maulings he suffered from golf power brokers and their foils in his native Canada. Mo was belatedly inducted into Canada's Golf Hall of Fame in 1995 at the age of 65. Mo Norman in action is dynamic denial of virtually every aspect of traditional golf mechanics. He holds the club in the palms of both hands. The hands are separated. They don't interlock or overlap. His stance is untraditionally wide. At address, his club grounds some 12 inches behind the ball, and his hands are stretched out in front of him. Mo's takeaway is abrupt, short, and vertical. His head moves measurably. Mo faces the ball at impact and does not clear the left side. And continuously, consecutively, with dramatic regularity, Mo Norman hits golf shots dead on a straight line to his target. Each stroke, awesome practical verification of Professor K's combined sciences that constitute the renaissance of the game. Jack Kirkendall dedicated his book to Mo Norman. In the dedication, he recounts how, with one stroke of his driver, some 270 yards dead straight with perfect shape and trajectory and a singular sound, Mo Norman confirmed Professor K's natural scientific golf theories momentously and instantaneously. His tradition and icon-smashing discovery is the natural palm grip, a hammer hold. It's a grip in which the handle of the golf club is placed in the palm of the dominant hand, along the lifeline and diagonally across the palm and against the thumb base, and under the heel pad of the top or left hand. Grasping the club this way creates a single-axis, three-lever, dominant arm primary power system. It greatly simplifies the entire golf swing and especially increases the power in the stroke. Ben Hogan's book, 5 Lessons, The Modern Fundamentals of Golf, says about the traditional finger grip, the standard grip is the overlapping grip. Up to now, we haven't found a grip that promotes as effective a union between body and club. One of these days, one may come along. Well, Mr. Hogan, we took a while to prove it, but that better one is here. The 20th century was golf's Varden era, celebrating Harry Varden's popularizing the traditional finger grip. The lexicon of golf will call the 21st century the natural palm age, celebrating the game's paradigm shift to the hammer motion golf swing. The shift challenges the massive body of traditional golf instruction which exists today to prove that its sacrosanct traditional finger grip is not the culprit that holds hostage the game improvement dreams of millions of golfers. Change begets controversy. Jack Kirkendall's discovery is that. It is a controversial major change. His science and Mo Norman's famous validation of it truly herald the beginning of golf's natural age. The natural palm grip is the linchpin of Jack Kirkendall's patent-pending natural golf swing system. Unfortunately and realistically, people do not take to change easily just because something is better or even demonstrably superior. That's why Professor K and Natural Golf Corporation explain scientifically why much of today's traditional teaching fails to hold up under simple scientific inquiry. He answers and scientifically supports in his work obvious and logical questions about the natural golf system. You'll know why there's an ideal mechanical advantage to the natural golf stroke. Ideal mechanical advantage is the actual physics term that defines optimum performance traits. You'll come to understand why everyone, from beginner to the world's best tour players, simply couldn't fail to improve their scoring ability by playing the natural golf system. You'll learn why traditional clubs, both classic forged blades or high-tech perimeter weighted, are not compatible with natural golf's ideal mechanical advantage, and why Natural Golf Corporation had to design special clubs for its special system. As you hear Professor K, you'll come to realize why, until now, there is no single dominant golf teaching system, and why all systems that do exist get about the same results. Significantly, you'll find out why all traditional golf teaching systems are based on perceptions, not reality. Professor K will show you that traditional high-tech golf clubs are really fault correction clubs that can actually punish a good golf swing. Golf instruction forever has been the exclusive territory of exceptional players and the teachers who gleaned information from the exceptional players. Therein lies the rub. The vast body of instruction that comprises traditional golf theory is, he will tell you, science fiction at best. The natural golf swing system's scientifically supportable truths are proven facts that will free you from the vast collection of confusing and conflicting golf instruction that's been written over the years. When you understand and accept these truths, you'll have taken the first natural step toward enhancing and improving your performance on the golf course and enjoying the game. So muster up the courage to change the things you can and listen to a man whose passionate persistence over the years to help find the best way for sportsmen and women to hit a ball on the ground with a stick. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce you to Professor K, Jack Kirkendall, scientist, inventor, fervent golfer, as you can see, and a virtual gargoyle of golf ideas. Good to see you, Jack. Got that nice birdie, huh?
Yes, yes. See, I just sunk my first 10-footer of the day.
All right, that gets you off to a good start. Listen, you know what I want to do, Jack? If we can sit down and have you explain to me and to everybody the science of this whole thing. Can we do that?
Yes, I'd love to.
All right. You know, Jack, the first time you mentioned the sciences to me and explained it to me, that proverbial light bulb went on.
We're going to be explaining the golf swing in simple scientific terms today. Nothing we'll be using will be higher than a 101 level college course. I'll be using words like physics, anatomy, kinesiology, neuroscience, but we're not going to let these words scare you. Everything we do is going to take a science and do away with perceptions. What we're going to do now is simply take some very simple sciences and show that the golf swing really isn't complex.
All right, so you mentioned perceptions. How about this? I'll toss you the faulty perception, the perceptions that are popular today, and you can apply the natural sciences to them, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, perception number one. The majority of golf teachers and playing pros have a thorough knowledge of ideal golf swing mechanics.
One of the major misconceptions in the golf swing. All motion is controlled by the subconscious mind. The subconscious is a non-communicating dictator. Your conscious mind never knows what your body is doing. You will feel something during the swing, and because everyone feels something different, this is why you have several hundred golf theories. This is what a person who does something very well feels, and he just knows that's what's happening. Simple observations of what they're saying simply shows that those aren't what happens in golf swing.
So are you saying just let it happen? Are you saying what Yogi Berra used to say as a baseball player, how can you hit and think at the same time?
Yes, no.
All right.
Yes, once you have a program in the subconscious that can perform the motion, no initially. Initially, when you're learning something, you have no program. You physically cannot do what someone is asking you to do. And so you learn to play golf in slow motion and static positions until you put a program in that can perform the motion. Once you've performed this motion enough times, your brain will have circuitry for performing it, and once it has that circuitry, now it can't make an error. It will simply do what you have programmed, with two exceptions. If you ever go conscious, or if you give it a negative image. Your subconscious mind doesn't differentiate between positive and negative. It only looks at an image. And so if you give it a negative image, it simply tries to produce the negative image.
Yeah, I guess that's what I meant when I said, you know, if you think about it too much, then you're going to do the wrong thing. All right, let me lay this one on you now. 2, you can learn to be a better golfer if you practice enough and take enough lessons. And if you fail to improve, you just don't have the talent.
That's one of the great misconceptions. The thing I discovered, which is the culprit to why the golf swing is so difficult for most people, is a major mechanical flaw in the teaching system. And it happens to be this finger grip of the right hand. Gripping the golf club in the fingers of the right hand creates a mechanics that is so complex that it has nothing to do with the mechanics. It has to do with your body's ability to do incredibly complex rotary motions and have an object facing where you want the golf ball to go, the club face, and it's strictly based on your genetic timing barrier. And what I mean by that is your brain circuits, your body's ability to coordinate motion, and it has nothing to do with the mechanics you're using.
Well, now, that leads me into point number 3. You can overdo analysis and explanation of the golf swing. In other words, the more you read, the more complicated and difficult golf is.
The word you've heard is paralysis by analysis. Actually, that's a better statement would be paralysis from incorrect analysis. And what we're going to do as we finish this video is analyze the golf swing scientifically, show you precisely what's happening using theories, not perceptions, and analysis by scientific terms, yes, you can improve.
Okay, 4, the traditional overlapping finger grip emphasis is on economy of movement and effort. Ben Hogan wrote, "One of the greatest pleasures in golf is the sensation a golfer experiences at the instant he contacts the ball flush and correctly." Hogan, gifted and dedicated, most likely hit more golf balls that way than any player in history who used the traditional finger grip method. Mo Norman has likely hit as many flush shots with what we now call the natural golf swing. Hogan saw Norman hit it that way and doubtless wouldn't dispute the claim. Now that Norman's natural action is gaining the respect of golf professionals at all levels, more players will enjoy that wonderful sensation, and they'll enjoy it more often than they ever thought possible. Here's the professor again to get you from the top of the natural golf swing to the deliriously delicious, dead, solid flush hit.
The first move of the downswing is the simultaneous, controlled, deliberate action of 3 elements. In one flowing motion, the right elbow moves downward, inside the right hip as the right hand moves away from the right shoulder. The right hip muscles contract and adduct the lower body back towards the address position. The knees flex and the upper body lowers about 2 inches. The left knee moves directly toward the left big toe. At impact, the body is square to the target line, facing the ball, and both feet are flat on the ground. The right arm has straightened and has flexed or released the right hand, delivering the power. The right arm has straightened and the right palm is facing the target line. The hands are ahead of the club head and the butt of the club is pointed at the left hip or just outside the left hip. If the butt of the club is pointing at your body and the hands are not leading the club head, the right hand has flexed or released too early from your conscious help and power and accuracy have been lost. Both arms straighten 6 inches after impact. The right hand pronates until the right palm is on plane. The stroke is over after impact. Finish in a balanced and comfortable position.
So there it is, the how-to of the natural golf swing, scientifically developed by Jack Kirkendall and validated by Mo Norman, the finest striker of a golf ball ever to put on a pair of golf spikes. As the age of the natural palm grip begins, let's review what you've just seen. The traditional finger grip swing is a 2-axis system, and it's scientifically impossible to rotate a 2-axis system on a single plane. The natural golf swing is a single-axis method that gives every golfer the highest probability of maximum accuracy and distance. It's easy, it repeats, and its rewards come quickly. To review, use the natural palm grip. Form a single axis of the club shaft and dominant forearm. Take the club inside and bicep curl it to shoulder height. Bring the club down in a simple, basically right-handed hammering motion, just as you would hammer a nail. If you can hammer a nail, you can become a good, perhaps even a great ball striker. The extension and flexion, in generalized terms cocking and uncocking of the right wrist in the natural golf swing, is exactly the action when swinging a hammer. Professor K explains that 76% of club head speed is generated when the wrist unhinges around the forearm. When Jack and Mo talked about it, Mo was dramatically convincing.
And I asked this carpenter, when I said to him, "What's your hammer, heavy or light?" And he said, "Heavy." I said, "Why?" "Because it won't waver as much, or it won't bend as many nails," he said. Geez, I stood and said to myself, here's the nail. He's only going this far to hit a nail, and he wants something heavy. We're going back to here. Now, what the heck?
Did you ask him where he held it? in
Oh,
his hand?
yes, and he said, never in the fingers.
Yeah.
Put it in the palm. Smell good.
It's, I remember something like you said, like, what is this?
Fingers are live, palms are dead.
Okay. All right.
Look how fast you can move your fingers. Look at the palm stays dead still. Look.
Yeah.
Look, look at the fingers. Look, all different angles. Look, that's what the golf swing does. Look, moves around like a.
So if you
Jelly
concentrate
bean.
on this palm and where you're going, that's where the ball's going, right?
Why, certainly. The club goes where your hand. The ball goes where your hands go.
On the PGA Tour, those simple single-plane, one-axis swing mechanics simply don't exist. Virtually no tour players swing on the ideal single plane of the natural golf swing. That statement is supported by a comprehensive 5-year study by Dr. Ralph Mann, the respected expert on biomechanics. In his study of the world's leading playing golf professionals, all of whom play with a traditional finger grip, Dr. Mann says if you've been trying to swing like Iron Byron, you've set yourself a self-defeating task. Swing devices that teach you to keep hands and club head on the same path only complicate matters. If you could ever master a single plane swing, it would be weak and ineffective. Dr. Mann's statement is absolutely true for the traditional finger grip two-axis swing. A pure single plane swing is only possible if you hold the club in palms of both hands. If we were able to show you all 52 of the leading tour players Dr. Mann studied, they would all share these dreadfully complicated moves. Their bodies will be moving up and away from the ball, and as they start their downswing, their shoulders will be rotating on one plane, arms will be rotating on an oblique second plane, hands will be rotating on a third plane inside the arm plane, club head is rotating on a fourth plane, club face is rotating on a fifth plane inside the club head. All 5 of those, remember, are while the body is moving upward and backward, and the club head is moving close to 100 miles an hour. Now, when you consider that your club face can only vary by 2 degrees if you want the ball to fly to the fairway, it's little wonder that only humans with world-class timing and tempo and the ability to spend daily hours at practice can shoot par golf with traditional clubs and swing methods. Science, says Professor K, proves that great golfers are born with the ability to play better than others. It is, he explains, a genetic timing barrier determined by the brain's cerebellum and other circuitry. Once a golfer reaches their genetic timing barrier, his or her ability to strike the ball any better has maxed out. Any good teaching professional can get a student to their timing barrier in a reasonable time. Once you're there, improvement only comes in putting and chipping. Once you reach your genetic timing barrier, traditionally there's not much improvement on your horizon, unless you change to the ideal mechanical advantage of the single-axis natural golf swing. Why? Well, because you can lurch, spin, lunge, rotate, turn, connected or not, and only generate about 6 miles an hour of clubhead speed that propels a golf ball about 18 yards at sea level. You've got to hear Jack Kirkendall tell it. This is how he convinces you in the natural golf science clinics that you ought to consider attending.
What we're going to be going through today is the science of the golf swing, what really takes place in a golf swing, using physics, anatomy, kinesiology, and neuroscience. We're not going to use the perceptions and feelings that professionals and teachers have. We're going to use nothing but science, and we're going to use scientific theory to do this. The first formula we're going to go through is called momentum physics formula. And all this simply says that a mass and velocity, when it hits something sitting still, that this one will slow down and the other one will pick up speed. There's one part of the formula called a coefficient of restitution. This is if you hit something that can compress like a golf ball, it will store up energy and spring back off the object. This is the velocity after impact divided by the velocity before impact. For clay, if you dropped it, it'll hit the ground and won't come back at all. That's a coefficient of restitution of 0. If you drop a steel ball off of a piece of steel, it'll come back almost to where you dropped it from, a coefficient of restitution close to 1. All other numbers are between 0 and 1. For a golf ball, today it's around 0.8. It'll come back roughly 80% when hit with a golf club. So now we plug this formula into the equation, and what the equation tells us that the velocity with which the golf ball will leave the club head is just 3 numbers multiplied by themselves. One having to do with the mass of the system, one this coefficient of restitution, and one the velocity with which objects are moving in the system. So now what we would like to do is simply plug some numbers into this equation. And so we'll use a 200-pound person. We'll have the velocity of the components summed into the velocity that the club head is moving at 100 miles an hour. A golf ball weighs 1/10 of a pound, and the coefficient of restitution of golf balls today is roughly 0.8. So in the first part, the mass, we have 200 divided by 200 plus 0.1. What is 200 divided by 200.1? It's 1.996. What the equation says is that the mass cancels itself out. It has no effect. The coefficient of restitution is just a number that's set. The only variable is club head speed. How fast can you get that club head going? And so the golf ball would leave the club head at 179.91 miles an hour. Now let's use a 150-pound person. Again, 150 divided by 150.1 is 1. The mass has no effect on how far your golf ball goes. The golf ball will leave at 179.88 miles an hour, 0.03 miles an hour differential for 50 pounds of body weight. This is why 120-pound Chi-Chi Rodriguez and Bob Toskis can hit golf balls 280 yards, and why lady professionals, which weigh 100 to 110 pounds, can hit the ball roughly 250 yards. Your mass has nothing to do with it. The only thing that matters is club head speed. How fast can you get that club head going? Again, to show that we're after speed and not force, we can use a 2,000-pound object, your automobile, moving at 10 miles an hour. Same force as 200 pounds moving at 100 miles an hour. And if you hit a golf ball with your automobile, it would go about 10 to 15 feet. We're not after force, we're after speed. And so this is what the simple mathematical prediction says, is mass has no effect, club head speed is the only thing that matters. So now what we would like to do is use another very simple physics formula. Velocity is distance divided by time. And we want to now determine where velocity can come from in the human body. And we have 4 places. The body can move lateral, the body can rotate, your arm can move up and down, and your hand can move around the wrist hinge. A typical golf swing from the time you're at the top until you reach impact will be approximately a quarter of a second. And so we'll use that figure in our calculations. Anything that's moving imparts that velocity in something that's moving with it. If I'm in an automobile driving along and I toss something up in the air, it doesn't go flying out the back window. The automobile tosses it forward at the speed the automobile is moving, and you drive underneath it and catch it. In the car, you think it goes straight up and down. Someone standing on the side of the road will see it move in a parabola. So anything that's moving imparts that velocity with it. So if I'm doing this, you see that club head is moving. I'm putting this much speed in that club head. And so we're going to use our 4 places we can get speed from, and the first one is lateral. And let's have a really big lateral shift, way back here to way up here, 6 full inches of motion. And this happens in 0.23 seconds. And when you do the calculations of velocity is distance divided by time, that comes out to be 1.5 miles an hour. So this motion here puts 1.5 miles an hour with the club head speed in the club head. Now let's use rotary body motion. The body's spinning on this plane here. And then we'll use the outside of the shoulder to give it its maximum distance. And so it moves from here up to here. That's approximately 18 inches divided by 0.23 seconds, 4.5 miles an hour. So your body's total contribution to 100 mile an hour club head speed is only 6 miles an hour. Something moving on this plane does not add speed to something moving on this plane. It's only the length of this arm times the cosine of the angle and how fast this is moving. The speed with which you put into the club head with your rotating body is that right there. And as you can see, it's an incredibly small speed. The next thing we have now is the hand moving from here down to here. This is 6 feet. And this is, again, 0.23 seconds. From here to here produces 18 miles an hour with a club head speed. The only thing we have left now is the only high-speed hinge in the human body, and this is the hand around the wrist hinge. This is where your speed comes from. A full 76% comes from this motion right here in the golf swing. The right tricep produces 18, the right forearm 76, and your body 6%. All this motion does in a golf swing is produce motion that does not generate club head speed. Stop spinning your body around. Learn to straighten this arm out correctly. Now what we'd like to take a look at is there are some people who think gravity has something to do with it. So I've made up an object that allows us to take a look at what gravity can do. And as you can see, that's not moving very fast at all. And in fact, from the time you're here to impact will be 1/10 of a second. I want you to count 1/10 of a second. That's how much gravity actually contributes to a golf swing. It's 2 miles an hour and 2 inches of the swing. It has virtually no effect whatsoever. The next one is believed that there's this mysterious force called centrifugal force, and there's people out there swinging something around like this on a string saying this is where the power from a golf swing comes from. What I want to do now is toss this object to you, and I want you to catch it. And so what I'm going to do now is I toss this. You'll see the only force on that is in my hand, and that it went straight ahead except for the parabola part of gravity pulling it downwards. There was no other force on this object except the force I produced with my hand. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to hold on to the string, and now I'm going to put a force, and when it reaches the end of the string, you'll see that the string changed it from going in the direction it was going. I did not continue the torque, and so it simply stopped and made only a very short motion. If I want to keep the object moving, I must now, as I throw it, also produce torque with my hand. And it's the torque in my hand that makes it go faster and faster and faster. And if I stop the torque, it stops. There's no mysterious force out here on this thing making it go outwards at all. If you're going around a curve in a car, you will swear up and down that you're pushing on that car door and that you're creating a force. That's not true. Your inertia or mass is simply trying to go forward, and the car is pushing on you. You are the reaction to the force. You're not the force. If you put clothes in a clothes dryer and the clothes are spinning around, you're not taking the water out of the clothes. You're taking the clothes out of the water. The water's mass goes through the hole, continues in a straight line, tangent to the circle, and the clothes are jerked inwards. There is no force out here on this. It's called centrifugal force, but it's the reaction to the force. The only force was on the string. And to demonstrate that, because there's a large number of people who thinks all you have to do is get this inside spinning, and that a tremendous force called centrifugal force is going to make this club head pick up speed. So I built a device where you don't put any force on this side of the hinge. It's all over here, and watch how much speed you can generate by spinning your body around. Nothing. It's virtually minimal because there is no such thing called centrifugal force. It's the torque here. To produce speed, this forearm muscle must do it, and it must do it by shortening the radius of a large arc. There's where your speed comes from, this forearm muscle. To demonstrate where speed comes from, since centrifugal force doesn't do it, where does it come from? And it comes from another very simple physics formula: shortening the radius of a large arc. The radius of this arc is this distance between my hands. And so I'm going to spin this around, and now I'm going to take my left hand and shorten this radius by pulling downwards on the cord. Now watch it accelerate. See how fast that moved? The second I shorten this radius by simply pulling down with my hand, you get a huge acceleration. So the power in a golf swing comes from shortening the radius of a large arc. So now we must understand what a large arc is. If I ask anyone here if this was a big arc, you're probably going to say yes. That's the smallest arc a human being can possibly make with a golf club. That arc is based on the radius of my arm in this shaft. It can't make a bigger circle than this radius. If I want a bigger circle, I've got to get a bigger radius. And to do that, the club head needs to come almost straight up and down. Because if I continued this motion into a circle, this would go way up in the sky, way down in the ground, and the center of that would be 50 yards or so out here. So a big arc is as straight up and down as I can bring my hands and club head. And this is what you'll see in every big hitter that ever hits a golf ball, is the hands will come straight down, and the club head will be back over his shoulder, and then you'll see this action shortening the radius around the right wrist. So in all golf swings, to create power, bring this straight down, creating a big arc, and now shorten the radius around the right wrist, produced by the torque of the right forearm. There's nothing automatic about it. This is a mass. As this mass moves away from the body, it takes torque to make that thing move. If you're a skater and your arms are out here, you slow down. You pull them in, you speed up. And so we've got our hands in close, speeding up, but as this moves out, it takes huge torques to keep that thing moving, and the torque is produced by this right forearm. For the body to move, a muscle must contract to make that take place. Gravity could make it move if I just totally relaxed and fell down, but that doesn't happen in a golf swing. What happens in all golf swings is very simple. We take a look at the muscles that make motion take place. And in all good golf swings, from essentially this position, the first thing you will see is the humerus of the elbow come down inside this right hip. What muscles moves the humerus inside the right hip? The latissimus dorsi and the teres major, the coracobrachialis, the subscapularis, and the pectoralis major. These 5 muscles connect to the humerus, and when they contract, the right arm moves down in front of the right hip. What muscles moves the hips from here over to here? The next motion you see in all good golf swings is basically simultaneous. This is the first motion you'll see in virtually every good golf swing. It does not start from the ground up, and it doesn't start from spinning action of the body. You have 3 hip muscles, gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and a muscle called the tensor fasciae lata, which connects from the ilium to the tibia via a long tendon. And when these 3 muscles contract, the body goes to the position it's supposed to with the transfer of the weight to the left side of the body. Your body is a stabilizer. It's absolutely critical important, but not for producing power or speed of the club head, for stabilizing the body. Your power comes from this arm, and so the body must move this way when you produce this to offset this torque created by the right arm. And if the body doesn't move here, then it's very difficult, and it's incredibly difficult if you've got it doing this motion on you in the golf swing. So keep this thing steady. Face the golf ball with it. Stop spinning your body around. It produces no power in your golf swing, and it only makes it mechanically incredibly difficult to hit the golf ball. So now we understand where power comes from, the muscles that create the power, and once we get down to here, the right tricep straightens the arm further, and now the forearm muscle snaps it in at the last second. This is where the tremendous club head speed comes from, shortening this radius with this forearm muscle, the 76% muscle. So now we understand fully where it comes from. The left arm's function is simply to hang on to the club. For all of the people who think golf is a left-sided game, or the front arm does the pulling, a simple scientific observation shows that can never happen. If you have the club only in your left hand and you practice doing this and you say, look, see, I'm pulling this club through and my body in the left side creates the power. If that were the golf swing, you could make that statement, but that's not the golf swing. You put another 20-pound object with a fulcrum beneath this fulcrum. You've now eliminated that whole mechanical system of a 2-lever system. The golf swing is 17 levers. You have 2 ankles, 2 knees, 2 hips, 2 shoulders. Count the backbone as 1, 2 elbows, and 2 wrists. It's a 17-lever system. It's not a 2-lever system, and the fulcrum is below the left hand. For the left hand to produce speed, it must go this way. This never happens in a golf swing. The only speed producer is this hand making this motion. Very simple observation shows left side can do nothing but hang on in a golf swing. So now we have good news, bad news, worse news, and then fantastic news. The good news is, now that you understand where power comes from, the muscles that create it, and how they perform in the swing, you can't be fooled by perceptions anymore. Bad news is that from the time you're right here to impact will in general be 6/100ths of a second. You will never have a conscious sensation of these muscles contracting. As we showed earlier with the hammer drills, go home and take a hammer and hammer a nail and try to feel this muscle contracting. You can't feel it. It's too powerful. Put your hand here. You will really feel that muscle snap in. This is an incredibly powerful muscle in most people. Worse news is, for this to actually operate correctly, you must try never to let this flex. The problem with all amateurs is that they do this, and now all the power is gone. This cannot be released until this point in the golf swing. And so you must consciously never try to let this flex during the golf swing. I've actually designed an object that forces this action, and it's a very simple object. You simply place it on your arm. There's a hard piece here, and so it doesn't let that action take place. You get to your backswing correctly, you come here, and now if you try to flip the wrist, you see it will stop it, won't let it go, and so now you're releasing at the correct time in the golf swing. You never let this right hand flip around and decrease your power. The power comes from the last split second of this moving from here to here. It's not this, and it's not this that squares up the club face. It's here to here where the power comes from in the golf swing. The fantastic news is that now you understand where power comes from, which muscles produce it, and exactly how to produce the speed. And once you totally understand this, it only takes a short period of time to master the correct motion in the downswing to produce the power. Now what I'd like to do is to go through another physics formula, which is work, which is force times the distance, or kinetic energy, which is 1/2 mv squared. Now everyone I've ever seen use this term in golf says, aha, look at that V term, it's squared. Therefore, if you can get the velocity up just a little bit, you can really hit that ball further. If you can just increase the energy a tiny amount, get this velocity up. Is this what this equation is saying? Absolutely not. Has nothing to do with increasing your club head speed. What this equation is saying is the work. How much work you've got to do to increase the kinetic energy of the club head, to get the velocity up just a little bit. We've gone through the momentum physics formula. You only transfer mass in velocity. You don't transfer velocity squared. What this velocity squared means, how much work you've got to do just to increase your velocity a small amount, because you can't increase the mass. And so we'll use an 80-mile-an-hour club head speed. When you double that, it's 6,400. When you go to 90 miles an hour, it's 8,100. It takes 30% more work to produce 10 miles an hour more club head speed. If you go from 80 to 100, it takes 60% more work just to get 20 miles an hour club head speed. And go from 80 to 110, which is a good professional, you have to essentially double the work. 90% more effort into the swing to get 30 miles an hour more club head speed. This is why it's so incredibly difficult to increase your club head speed. The amount of work necessary to get your club head faster goes up as a squared term. So where can this come from? We showed the body produces 6 miles an hour. Let's say you're only 80% efficient and you get it from 4.8 miles an hour up to its full 6 miles an hour. You only picked up 1.2 miles an hour. You can never increase your club head speed by jerking your body or spinning your body around faster. The tricep is 18%. You can pick up a little there, but the major comes from this right forearm, 76%. You've got to learn to hold this thing off to the last second, 100% against all your instincts. You've got to make this thing stay here until this point in the swing, and then it snaps. That's where the speed comes from. All amateurs do it up here, and they got a little pendulum coming through. All long ball hitters do it right here with a last second snap, and they hit the ball with maximum club head speed. Now what we want to do is show what your hips and your shoulders do in a golf swing. There's a perception in the industry that if you torque your shoulders to your hips, that you can produce high club head speed. And in one particular article, the author shows that you can torque your shoulders, your right shoulder, to your right hip 48 degrees. Again, the people who did the study didn't do some simple scientific observation. Science shows that your spine has only 15 vertebrae, and they'll only turn about 2 degrees. 30 degrees is the maximum. I can take this shoulder to this hip and torque it. According to that article, John Daly can torque this 18 degrees more than is humanly possible for a human to do that. How could they make that error? And it's because they don't understand how the shoulders and the hips function. All of those articles treat the shoulders as one unit, and they'll put something on the back and they'll spin like this and turn it. The shoulders are not one unit. They're 2 units, and they work totally independent of each other. When you start a golf swing, your shoulders aren't back here because you couldn't even touch the golf club. They're forward. Both shoulders come forward about 45 degrees. And now they work totally independent of each other. If I move this shoulder over to here, you can see that the right shoulder hasn't moved at all. The left shoulder is moving. And in the forward swing, the left shoulder hasn't moved, and the right shoulder is moving. So what takes place in a golf swing? When I set up to it, both shoulders come forward by about 45 degrees, And now when I go into the back swing, the right shoulder and this right hip align with each other, and the elbow is inside. If I pick my elbow up in the air like a lot of people do, this doesn't go backwards, it just goes up. You still are not torquing your shoulders to your hips. There is no power whatsoever from torquing this to this, and it doesn't happen in any golf swing. When you go to the top of your swing, when you go to the top of your golf swing, the left shoulder, because you're pulling the right shoulder in and bringing it up, the left shoulder has moved 45 degrees more than the right shoulder. You see, if I drop it down, it moves back out to where it was started from here out to here. Once I'm here now and I start down, now the left shoulder comes up, the right shoulder comes down, and now the right shoulder comes towards the left shoulder because I'm moving the arm over here. So a very simple, again, observation shows that the shoulders work independent of each other and that torquing of your shoulders to your hips produces no power whatsoever in the golf swing. So never torque your shoulders to your hips. It only creates back problems in the golf swing. The next thing we'd like to talk about is your brain and how it controls your body. What does your brain do when you do mechanical motions? And there's a book called The Brain that was produced by Dr. Richard M. Restek that was a whole series done on the public broadcast stations. And what they found is that the brain does actions with a specific outcome. About 9/10 of a second before motion takes place, there will be electrical signals over both sides of your brain. And then at 90 milliseconds before motion takes place, again, there will be electrical signals over both hemispheres of your brain. And then at 50 milliseconds before the exact muscle moves, there will be an electrical signal in the motor cortex in the area for that specific muscle that fires. So what takes place is acts with a specific outcome. When you first try to hit a golf ball, it's very difficult. And the reason is you have no electrical signals, no circuits, no program set up for making that motion. Once the body has made a motion, it can make the motion. Up until the time it's made the motion, it can't make the motion. It has to develop a series of patterns of electrical signals so that the body can make the motion you want it to make. So the first time a professional gives you a lesson, most amateurs slice the ball, and the reason they do is they stand too close to the ball, throw their right shoulders out, and jerk their hands back across their body with the club face pointing to the right of the path. And so the professional says, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to bring your hands down this way and come at it from the inside. And the amateur says, I can do that. And he picks his golf club up and he throws his right shoulder out and he jerks his hand across his body. He physically cannot do what the instructor wants him to do. There are no programs, no electrical signals established that can allow his body to make that motion. Only two exceptions to that. If you go conscious, once you do have a motion that will reproduce, if you go conscious, it interferes with all the programs and will produce poor results. The second is negative images. Your subconscious mind controls the entire motion of the golf swing. The conscious mind has only some sensation, some perception, some feeling. This is what all current golf instructions are based on. The perceptions, sensations, and feelings of the players and the teachers. They are never what happens in the golf swings. Once a person feels this, though, and he's a good player, he absolutely knows that's the secret. And this is why you have about 50 to 100 theories of where power comes from in the golf swing. But they're all perceptions, incorrect perceptions of what's happening. Once you have the program, it cannot make an error, with the exception of the two things I mentioned, going conscious or having a negative thought. The going conscious is actually cutting off the subconscious programs and does not allow the body to function. The negative thought is simply giving the subconscious an incorrect image. Your subconscious does not make moral judgments on the images that you give it. It's only an image. For example, picture a woman not putting on mascara. What do you image right now in your brain? A woman putting on mascara. Don't think of a white elephant. You're thinking of a white elephant. Your subconscious mind is not moral. It just sees an image. It doesn't understand the word don't. There's no such thing as your brain imaging something not happening. Whatever is in there is something that's happening to your brain. And so when you say, don't hit the ball in the water, what image just came into your mind? Ball going in the water. Don't hit the ball out of bounds left. What image goes into your mind? big hook shot going out of bounds left. Your brain is going to do everything it can to produce that image. That's exactly what you told it to do. So the obvious of this is image what you want to happen. Hit the ball on the green. Hit the ball the right side of the fairway. You've always got to image the positive side of what you want to take place. Your subconscious mind is a non-communicating dictator. It's a real pain for learning anything in life. It never lets your conscious mind know what it's thinking about, what it's doing to your body, ever. The subconscious is complete control of your body when you're doing motion, and it never lets you know. You'll have some sensation, some feeling, but it's never what your subconscious mind is doing to your body. Your memories, or the way your brain stores what it's going to do, is based on the emotional content that you can put into whatever you're doing physically. If you have emotions, in golf in particular, the emotions will typically be on the negative side. Every time you hit a poor shot, it's proverbial of the foul language, the berating yourself, throwing of clubs, etc. Your brain remembers that. It knows how to do it every single time now, every time that shot comes up. You must learn to get very unemotional over your poor shots. The more emotional you get over a poor shot, the more your brain stores that, and that's what it will do every time you're in that situation. So what you've got to do is make poor shots totally unemotional, or as unemotional as possible for you to make them. And now reverse that. When you hit a good shot, yeah, watch that thing. Get excited over your good shots. Don't get excited over your poor shots and get upset. You want to build correct memories, not incorrect memories. So now what does your brain actually do when it's starting to program motion? It does four things: action programming, instruction generation, movement execution, and movement monitoring. In action programming, what your brain does is that it picks out where every one of your joint angles is at. This subconscious, the cerebellum, when I set up to swing at a golf club, knows where my joint angles are at, my hips, my knees, my ankles, and it knows the tension that I've got in every muscle here. And so what it does is that it picks out the starting position of every single joint and muscle I've got, and it's now got this program to where it's at. It now picks out the target, which is the golf ball, and it picks out, the next thing it does, it picks out what's called via points, the point that every joint angle must be at during the entire golf swing, from the time I set up till the time I finish my follow-through. It programs where every single joint angle and the tension in every muscle is going to be before I ever start the golf swing. It does that entire program before I ever start the swing. And since I have so many joint angles and so many muscles, how could it ever even pick one set out, much less reproduce something, because there'd been almost an infinite number of ways my body could move and still hit the golf ball. And it does it in the most unique fashion. Smoothness Performance Index. It picks out the smoothest possible trajectory that your body can move from one position to the next that makes the least amount of tension in the muscles to get it there. This is why when you hit a golf ball correctly, you feel nothing. If you ever feel torque in your golf swing at any time, no matter where it's at, you're doing something wrong. The body doesn't like torque. As a matter of fact, it hates torque. It doesn't want to feel that. It wants to feel this Smoothness Performance Index. So now what does the body do now? It does the action programming, then the instruction generation. The instruction generation is where the signals are coming from the cerebellum being sent to buffer zones before they're sent to the motor cortex. And when to store these, to give the signal at the exact split millisecond that it has to give the signal for the muscle contraction to take place. The signal then will go to the motor cortex, will be sent to the part that's moving, and then within 60 milliseconds it goes there, it comes back, and the movement monitoring section then says it was correct or incorrect. If it's correct, it says go to the next signal, go to the next signal. Every time it comes back correct, it's go to the next signal. If it ever comes back incorrect, within 30 milliseconds, the brain sends another circuit which tries to correct the motion in real time as you're making the motion. Examples would be a check swing in baseball. You can start the swing and stop it almost instantaneously. In golf, it will be when you feel a blocking motion or a catching up motion with your hand. The body knows something isn't right and tries to correct for it on real time. As you get more and more practice time in, and the program comes back more and more often, correct, 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 finally that whole circuitry sends it to a lower circuitry in the brain. It becomes an overlearned skill, and from that time on, you never have to think about it. It's there forever. It's just like walking, talking, driving your automobile. When was the last time you stuck a fork in your nose when you're eating? You don't do that, and you haven't missed your mouth ever. And you haven't given a single thought about what your hands and arms are doing when you're eating. The brain cannot make an error once it has this overlearned program in it. So what we have to do is learn how to get that overlearned program into the brain correctly. This is also why there can be no secret moves in golf. There's no such thing as one single golf swing, move or motion or tip ever making a golf swing correctly, because the brain doesn't function that way. The brain programs everything that's going to happen in the swing before it ever starts. No single motion can ever make a golf swing correct. The reverse of that, though, is true. One single incorrect motion can make the golf swing incorrect. So if you're spinning this lower body, it's really going to be difficult, or you have your shoulders square up here. So the obvious thing is stop spinning the lower body. Keep it stable and use your arms, which is what produces the power. So now what we want to talk about is how do we learn to overtrain this system so that it can produce every single time, not just sometimes, just like eating. Not miss your mouth a time, not miss that ball a time, hit literally 100% of your shots correctly. And what we're going to do here now is go to how to control your brain. And the brain can be in one of 5 states. It can be in predator, fight, flight, conscious, or I don't care. Predator is total concentration on the task at hand. Fight is forced concentration. Flight is actually lack of concentration. You produce too much adrenaline and it actually cuts the programs off. Conscious is slow motion concentration, always has to fail, and I don't care is no concentration and is always failure. So now what we want to take a look at, obviously, is predator, which is the state we'd like for the mind to be in. So the first thing we must ask is, how do predators walk, talk? How do predators feel? What are the characteristics of a predator? And I think everyone has seen a lion stalk a zebra on the Wild Animal Kingdom programs. And if you see a lion, you'll see those eyes glued on that subject. You'll see the muscles tightening. You'll see the heart pounding in his chest. Does a lion have fear? Does a predator have fear in his mind when he's doing something? And I'm going to say absolutely not. And the next thing a predator doesn't do is relax. The body prepares itself for action by producing stress, by producing adrenaline, by getting you at this perfect, correct level of arousal. And so this is where you always want to be at. You don't want to relax. You want to be at this perfect, correct level of arousal to perform. You want the adrenaline flowing. And so now what we want to do is find ways to get to this state. You do it in basic good sports psychology fashion. Concentration and self-confidence, goals and purposes. The first thing you must do is to hit enough golf balls, concentrating on what you're doing, and then get your self-confidence high enough that you know that you can hit correct golf shots a very high percentage of the time. That's step number 1. Until you can make a correct mechanical swing, make good solid contact to hit the golf ball where you want it to go a high percentage of the time, you have no other place to go. That's the starting point. Once you reach that point, now we go into goals and purposes, really getting into this predator state. Let's say that you have a 4-stroke lead in the Masters and it's the last day. What's your goal and purpose? Maintain. Just don't get beat. Change your whole goal. Day before you'd shot, leading the tournament, shot low scores. Now you change that whole goal and purpose, and what happens every time you have a 4-stroke lead going into the Masters? You shoot 72 to 76, someone shoots 65 to 66 and beats you. Before that, you shot great scores. Let's go to the next one. You're 5 strokes behind going into the last day of the Masters. What's your goal and purpose now? Shoot lights out. Knock every pin down. Doesn't make any difference you shoot 80. You're out of the tournament anyway for all practical purposes. What happens most of the time? Someone comes from back in the pack, shoots great low numbers, and comes close to winning or wins the tournament. They changed their whole goal and purpose for that day. They became a predator for that one day. Now let's go to the other extreme, that you've bet your house and your dog and your wife on the outcome of a golf game. I have to. You get in the I have to mode. Give them your house, your wife, and your dog. You just lost. You can't play golf in the I have to mode. You've got to have correct goals and purposes once you have a correct golf swing, and you have to stick to those goals and purposes. Don't change them and defeat yourself. The next thing, anyone who chooses to annoy me controls my life. You cannot control situations, only your reactions to them. You must make a list of everything that upsets you on the golf course. If it's someone walking behind you when you're about to tee off and they're moving around, then go out on the driving range, have someone walk behind you and hit good golf shots. If that doesn't work, turn and ask the person, would you stand still please while I hit this shot? Now turn back around and focus on hitting the shot, because now what do you think? Oh, they think I'm a terrible person. They think I can't play because they're moving around. You're still not focused on your golf shot. You've got to get focused on what you want to happen. So now turn back around, focus, and hit a good golf shot. What you must do is make a list of everything that upsets you on the golf course, and now systematically desensitize yourself to it. You've got to be able to stay in that predator state and not let anyone else in the world control your fate on the golf course. Now what we want to cover is some of the physics of the golf swing. If you're going to make the golf swing easier, you're going to have to simplify that mechanics. And a very simple demonstration will be a hammer. If I gave you this hammer and asked you to knock this ball off of here, I'll guarantee you won't stick this across your fingers. And then rotate it here, stick it way up over your head as high as you can get it, jerk it down here, and now spin your body around while flailing away at that ball. You're going to put it in the palm of your hand, exactly like you would hold a hammer. You're only going to take it back to where you take a hammer back to, and you're simply going to hammer the ball. To simplify the mechanics of a golf swing, you must design a golf club like a hammer. And this is all I've done. I've designed 3-foot hammers. So now instead of sitting flat across your fingers, we're going to have it very upright so it falls directly across the palm of your dominant hand, exactly like you would hold a hammer. Now look at the mechanical system that you have. You have a single axis 3-lever system. There's a straight line all the way from that club head to my shoulder. This lever is now part of the axis. So we now have a single axis 3-lever system. The single axis is the straight line, and the 3 levers are the shaft, the forearm, and the upper arm. We've eliminated this lever and this axis. Now when I set up to hit something, since it's a straight line from my club head to my shoulder, I can take this back on a single plane. Extend my hand just like we did a hammer, and now my right hand, my right shoulder, and that club head will stay on the same plane straight to the golf ball. And now when I set up to actually hit a real golf ball, I do the same thing. Bring it back on a single plane and simply toss, and the ball will go dead straight with pure backspin. Now why do we want pure backspin on the golf ball? Very simple physics. When you hit a traditional swing with a traditional club, the club head is closing in this fashion. It will contact the ball and will stay in contact for about a half of a milliseconds, 0.0005 seconds, will travel 3/4 of an inch as it's turning this way, and then the ball will separate. It will have side spins on it due to this closing of the club face. These side spins is why you only have 2 degrees of club face error. If you could hit a golf ball where it was spinning in this fashion here, they would have low pressure here, high pressure on the bottom, and the ball would lift. Whenever you put a side spin on the ball, it now has low pressure here, high pressure here, and moves in the direction of the spin. So when you put a normal draw spin on the golf ball, you've reduced your fairway by 66%. You only have 2 degrees of club face error. If you put pure backspin on the ball, which is what our swing does, the club head comes in square, moves to 3/4 of an inch, separates square, and the ball has pure backspin on it, you now have 6 degrees of club face error, a 66% advantage over the traditional swing to hit a golf ball where you want it to go. You've now been taken through physics, anatomy, kinesiology, and neuroscience, where the power in a golf swing comes from, the muscles that create the power, how your brain controls your body, and ball flight physics. Correctly interpreted science does not allow failure. You must succeed. We give you the SSS. Science says so.
Golf the natural way is a virtual no-brainer. In a clinical sense, as presented by Professor Kirkendall, it's an activity that's best left to the subconscious. He goes on to explain that when any motion takes place, millions of electrical signals are firing simultaneously to direct our movement. For example, putting food in your mouth with a fork only requires one conscious directive, while the subconscious monitors the millions of electrical signals that contract the muscles to make the hand, eye, arm, elbow, and mouth to work to get the food to its destination. Applied to golf, for instance, the strike is actually a flex of the dominant wrist hinge by the dominant forearm muscles, and it takes 0.06 of a second to perform. It is, says science, impossible to perceive. So if you sense you're hitting the ball or feel your hands releasing, you're not getting the most out of your natural golf swing. The feeling, Professor Kay and Mo Norman agree, is that the hands are totally passive through impact with the ball. The only conscious feedback from a pure, ideal mechanical golf swing is sound and observation of ball flight. The subconscious is a non-communicating dictator that, once trained, simply executes an exact programmed action. Knowing that, Professor K devised a set of drills to help you reinforce the instruction you received as a new natural golfer. The ideal mechanical advantage swing and thought drills.
The first drill is our 9-position drill. Addresses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is impact, 7 is both arms straight, 8 is point the club at the target, 9 is the finish. The second drill is the wrist hold drill. Grab your left wrist with your right hand underneath, pull your right elbow straight back, and now simply straighten the right elbow back out again. Head stays directly over the right knee. Back of the left hand points directly at the target. This is the hammer the board drill. All we're going to do is bring the hammer back with the right arm exactly like you would if you were hammering a nail. See, the right elbow moves back and the hand moves to the sub 45 abduct position. The right elbow moves in front of the right hip, and now we simply straighten the arm and extend the hand. The head remains over the right knee. You must train the left hand as well as the right hand because the brain controls your hands independently. So now place the hammer in the left hand, making sure that the back of the left hand is pointing directly at the target. Now simply swing your left arm across your body and then swing the left arm back down and through, hammering the ball, making sure that the back of the left hand is going directly at the target at impact. Now we want to do the same thing with the golf club. Hold the club in your right hand off of your right foot so that your body doesn't rotate, and now simply swing your left arm across your body and then swing it back down and through the ball. Try and duplicate the hammer motion such that the back of the left hand points directly at the target at impact. This one we want to sit on a stool. The objective of this one is to eliminate lower body motion. Lower body does not generate club head speed, and so we want to learn to stabilize it. Just swing with your hands and your arms. This one is to teach you not to let the left hand break down through impact. You choke down on the shaft and you can't flex the left hand because the butt of the club will hit you in your rib cage. This drill is your preset impact drill. We're setting the left knee directly over the left big toe. We're facing the ball with the lower body, and we're going to swing at a quarter speed, a half speed, and full speed swings. Observe that there's virtually no motion in the lower body. Again, what we're trying to do is show that power comes from that right arm. This is the right elbow drill. We want the first motion in the downswing is that right elbow moving in front of the right hip. So pump twice and then hit the ball. This is the thought of the number 8 position. See, the head is back over the knee while the hand goes to the number 8 thought position towards the hole.
Properly designed golf clubs are indispensable to natural golf's ideal mechanical advantage swing system. In validating the science of Professor K's discoveries, Mo Norman, by trial and error, tinkered with and modified traditional clubs, changing them to a configuration much like the natural golf clubs of Professor K's design.
When you very first started playing, what did you do to your club so that you could swing with your method?
First thing was real heavy clubs and big oversized grips.
Mm-hmm.
I got no variation in my grip in the hand. Both size of the grip is the same in both hands.
Mm-hmm.
There's no variation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got it in the palm of my hand, never in the fingers. That's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the palm.
Did you bend your clubs upright too?
Yes.
Didn't you make them more upright because you had to get it in the palm from
And
the
my
fingers?
hands are always high, yes.
Uh-huh. So yeah, and you played with blade clubs almost your whole career, didn't you?
Well, that's all we had.
Yeah,
That's all we had.
had back then was a blade club, and you put weights on them to make it heavier?
The subject of club design in the world of the traditional finger grip is a jungle of marketing hype that Professor K dissects quite courageously. His rage to know brought him to conclude that equipment per se must be revolutionized too, to complement the natural palm grip's single-axis mechanics. To get there, he had to take a look at equipment in the traditional world, and his findings are eye-openers in themselves.
Let's discuss the scientific reasons why. Statistics compiled by the USGA and published in a Golf Digest article shows that only 0.1% of male golfers shoot par, only 2.5% are below a 5 handicap, and that the average score for male golfers is 97. Why is golf so difficult? Why can't golf be like other sports where you spend a reasonable amount of time and effort and you achieve a higher skill level? There are 3 scientific reasons: club design, your body mechanics, and a subconscious program. We'll cover club design in this section. An article done by Golf Digest shows what happens when using high-tech and classic clubs to ball flight when you use the entire club face, the place where golfers hit golf balls, not just the sweet spot. They use the True Temper swing machine so that the club face would be square to the ball at impact. And what they show is that when you hit the sweet spot, the center of gravity on the club face, you will get the distance you expect in a short variation in flight path. Now, what is the sweet spot on a club face? This is the center of gravity. Take any club head, balance it on your finger, and this is the center of gravity. And for a high-tech club, you will see that it will be below ball impact and towards the heel. Your high-tech club will have weight in the toe and weight in the heel and a big cavity back, or some form of flow weighting where they distribute the weight around the outside edge of the club. When you hit that spot, what the study shows is that you will get the distance you expect and a short variation in flight path. But what happens when you don't hit that spot? Let's take the 2 extremes, the upper toe and the lower heel. What happens when you hit up in this area? There's about 5,000 pounds of impact force, and so it's going to kick the toe down and back while this heavy toe weighting goes down and under the ball. And what the study shows is the ball will be as much as 30 yards out to the right. What happens with your high-tech club when you hit in the heel area? All of this toe weighting flips over, puts huge side spins on the ball, and the study shows that the ball will be as much as 50 yards to the left. What about your classic clubs, the blade clubs? They're shorter clubs. The weight is more evenly distributed, so the toe doesn't twist as much, and the ball will be only 18 to 20 yards to the right. When you're hitting the heel on a blade club, it's only about 20 yards to the left. And so your high-tech clubs have an accuracy of roughly 80 yards, and your classic or blade clubs have an accuracy of about 40 yards. The high-techs are twice as inaccurate as your blade clubs. So what are they designed for, and how could a professional play with a club that's twice as inaccurate as what he used to play with and still win? First of all, what are they designed for? Straightforward and simple. Cure a slice. Manufacturers call it fault correction and larger sweet spot. What they really mean is correction for a slice. Amateurs slice the golf ball, and the reason they slice the golf ball is that they stand too close to the ball with their knees bent. They get their hands too close to their body, and when they're swinging, they throw their right shoulder out, they jerk their hands back across their body with the club face open, pointing to the right of the path, and it produces a huge side spin, and so the ball will go up to 50 yards to the right. The 50 yards left built into the heel hit offsets your 50 yards right, and you can actually hit a golf ball dead straight with a scooping, slicing golf swing. How can a professional play with a club as poorly designed as I just described and still win a tournament? There are pros who win with high-tech clubs. The reason is simple. Professionals hit the center of gravity 99.9% of the time. One shot a round, one shot every second round is about all they really miss the center of gravity. They don't escape the laws of physics either, and when they don't hit the center of gravity, the exact same thing happens to them as happens to amateurs. This is why your consistent winners on tour are still using blade clubs. High-tech winners are your streak winners. They're the guys who can, when their timing and tempo is perfect, can put 4 rounds together, walk away, maybe do it 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then you don't hear from them for a year. Your consistent winners are still using blade clubs because they're considerably more accurate. So the first thing I had to do as a scientist is to design a golf club head correctly. And it's actually quite simple to do. We only need Physics 101, pencil and a piece of paper. We don't need high-powered computers to design a golf club head not to twist from ball impact. The first thing you want to do is make the blade as short as you can possibly make it. Simple physics formula. Torque is force times the lever arm. When you have a big lever arm out here, it's very, very easy to twist the club head. So if you line my hosel up with the hosel of a high-tech club, you will see that I am considerably shorter than they are, on the order of about a ½ inch to a ¼ of an inch. Depending, as they make them longer and longer, mine will get shorter and shorter. You do want perimeter weighting, but you want absolute even weight distribution, no form of flow weighting at all. And you'll notice that the hosel of mine is exactly equal with the toe. This weight exactly offsets this weight, and it's absolutely even weight distribution around the outside edge. When you balance my club on the center of your hand, you will find that the center of gravity is above ball impact and in the center of the club face. It gives me the same radius arm to any point on the club face. There's a mass outside that to offset twisting. They have a virtually eliminated club head twisting from ball impact. I'm twice as accurate as any classic clubs, 4 times as accurate as any high-tech club on the market. If you ball impact my club here, the high center of gravity kicks the club face slightly forward. You get full transfer of your club head speed into the ball, so you get maximum air carry from the velocity off the ball. With a high-tech club, the center of gravity is below ball impact. When the ball hits, it kicks the blade backwards. You have a glancing blow, and you lose 3 to 5% of your club head speed. You'll be a minimum of 1 club longer with my clubs from the short irons to about the 5 iron, and you'll be 2 to 3 clubs longer as you get to my longer irons, because the drives it off with full velocity, not glancing blows. The natural driver head is designed with the same technology as our irons. Short radius arm, even distribution on the outside. This is one of your traditional oversized heads. This is the natural head. You can see how the radius arm is substantially shorter in our head. The bigger the lever arm, the more it twists from ball impact.
Once again, because you need to know this well, the natural club head's compact oval shape and high center of gravity wholly eliminate twisting at impact when the ball is struck in the grooved area of the club face. The natural iron is 1 full club longer than any high-tech club up to the 6 iron, and as much as 2 clubs longer than any high-tech club from the 5 iron to the 2 iron. The natural driver head is designed and produced with the same technology as the natural irons. Well, now that Professor K, Natural Golf, Scott, Mo, and I have duly naturalized you, the next step is truly yours. Golfing is a great sport and pastime, and of course it takes place right out here in nature, which is wondrous in its own right. Mo Norman's perspective on a great day golfing sums it up pretty well. We'll leave you with the greatest striker of the golf ball to ever live, Mo Norman, and the special respect he has for all that's natural.
Under Lost and Found, Lost 124-hour, 24-karat gold jewelry. Each hour studded with 60 diamond minutes. Each minute studded with 60 ruby seconds. But don't bother to look for it. It's gone forever. That wonderful golden days are lost today. All gone.